Welcome to Bite-Sized L&D, your quick, no-nonsense update on the latest in workplace learning. Today, we'll uncover how understanding Daniel Kahneman's thinking, fast and slow can revolutionize your decision-making processes and enhance your learning strategies. All right, let's get straight into it. Have you ever wondered why you sometimes make irrational choices, even when you know better? Why buying a $5 coffee every day seems fine, but paying $150 a month for a coffee subscription seems expensive? Or why you're more afraid of shark attacks than driving, despite the vastly higher probability of dying in a car accident? Have you ever wondered why you sometimes make irrational choices, even when you know better? Why buying a $5 coffee every day seems fine, but paying $150 a month for a coffee subscription seems expensive? Or why you're more afraid of shark attacks than driving, despite the vastly higher probability of dying in a car accident? Today, I'm diving into Daniel Kahneman's groundbreaking work, Thinking Fast and Slow, which offers a fascinating framework for understanding how our minds actually work, not how we think they work. Let's start with what might be Kahneman's most powerful insight: the idea that we essentially have two systems of thinking. Kahneman's central idea is that we have two systems of thinking. System 1 is fast, intuitive, and emotional. System 2 is slower, more deliberative, and more logical. Think of System 1 as your autopilot. Right now, as you're listening to my voice, System 1 is handling dozens of tasks: recognizing words, maintaining your posture, registering background noises, and creating a constant stream of impressions and feelings. Meanwhile, System 2 is your conscious, reasoning self, the you that makes deliberate choices, solves complex problems, and checks the work of System 1 when something seems off. But here's the thing: System 2 is lazy. It requires effort and concentration, resources your brain tries to conserve. Now, this reliance on System 1 leads to something really interesting: mental shortcuts that can sometimes lead us astray. Because System 2 is energy-intensive, our brains rely heavily on System 1's shortcuts, or what Kahneman calls heuristics. These are mental rules of thumb that work well most of the time, but can lead to systematic errors. Take the availability heuristic. We tend to judge the likelihood of events based on how easily examples come to mind. After watching Jaws, swimming in the ocean suddenly seems terrifying, even though you're more likely to be killed by a vending machine than a shark. Or consider anchoring. In one experiment, Kahneman asked people if Gandhi was older or younger than 144 when he died, then asked how old they thought he actually was when he died. The average guess was 67. When he asked another group if Gandhi was older or younger than 35, their average guess was 50. That initial number, however absurd, anchored their subsequent estimates. I caught myself falling for this recently when buying a car. The dealer first showed me a luxury model well outside my budget. After that sticker shock, the mid-range model I actually bought seemed like a bargain by comparison. But wait, there's another fascinating dimension to how our minds work that Kahneman explores. Another fascinating concept is the distinction between our experiencing self and our remembering self. The experiencing self lives in the moment, while the remembering self keeps score and maintains the story of our lives. Kahneman describes a study where participants underwent a painful medical procedure. Some had a shorter procedure with intense pain, while others had a longer procedure where the intense pain was followed by moderate pain that tapered off. Logically, more pain for a longer time should be worse, right? But when asked which they'd prefer to repeat, participants consistently chose the longer procedure. Why? Because the remembering self follows the peak-end rule. We judge experiences mainly by their most intense point and how they end, not by the sum of every moment. This explains why a wonderful vacation can be ruined by a bad final day, or why we keep going back to restaurants where we had to wait an hour but the food was amazing. Here's another quirk of our thinking that affects us every single day. We're also irrationally fearful of losses. Kahneman found that the pain of losing something is about twice as powerful as the pleasure of gaining the same thing. This loss aversion explains many puzzling behaviors. Would you take this bet? I flip a coin. Heads, you win 150. Tails, you lose $100. Mathematically, this is a good bet with a positive expected value. But most people refuse it because the potential loss looms larger than the potential gain. I noticed this in myself when investing. I held on to losing stocks far longer than I should have, hoping they'd recover so I wouldn't have to face the loss. Meanwhile, I was quick to sell winners, denying myself potential further gains. Speaking of biases that affect our daily lives, have you ever noticed how bad we are at estimating time? Have you ever promised to finish a project by next Friday, only to find yourself working through the weekend to barely meet the deadline? Welcome to the planning fallacy. Our tendency to underestimate how long tasks will take, even when we have experience with similar tasks taking longer than expected. When Kahneman asked students to predict when they'd complete their senior theses, the average estimate was 34 days, the actual average 56 days. And when asked when they'd finish, if everything went as poorly as it possibly could, the average guess was 49 days, still shorter than the actual average completion time. I've learned to double my time estimates for projects. If I think something will take a week, I block 2 weeks. Even then, I'm sometimes scrambling at the end. So with all these mental quirks working against us, you might be wondering, can we actually improve our thinking? With all these mental quirks working against us, can we improve our thinking? Kahneman is cautiously optimistic. While we can't transform System 1, these biases are hardwired. We can learn to recognize situations where errors are likely and deliberately engage System 2. For important decisions, try these strategies. First, try to recognize high-risk situations. Major purchases, career choices, and emotionally charged decisions all warrant extra scrutiny. Second, seek outside perspectives. We spot others' biases more easily than our own. Ask someone who's not emotionally invested for their take. Third, use checklists and formal procedures. These force System 2 engagement and prevent System 1 from jumping to conclusions. And finally, consider the opposite. Deliberately think about why your initial judgment might be wrong. I applied this recently when house hunting. I made a checklist of must-haves before viewing any properties, asked a friend to tour my top choices with me, and forced myself to list 3 serious negatives about the house I was most excited about. This process led me to a more clear-eyed decision I'm still happy with months later. So what's the ultimate lesson from Kahneman's work? Kahneman doesn't offer a perfect solution to human irrationality. Instead, he gives us something perhaps more valuable: self-awareness. By understanding the quirks of our mental machinery, we gain the power to catch ourselves when we're being predictably irrational. So next time you're faced with an important decision, remember that you have 2 systems at work. One quick and intuitive, the other slow and rational. Give System 2 the time it needs to do its job properly. Your future self will thank you for it. Until next time, keep thinking, both fast and slow. And that wraps up today's podcast, where we explore Daniel Kahneman's insights into the dual systems of thinking and how they impact our decision-making, from mental shortcuts to biases like loss aversion and the planning fallacy. Stay tuned for more updates.